What's important to me is being able to access my account on the iPhone. So I wanted to talk to you guys about your banking as well as credit cards and see, are you accessing it on the iPhone? Are you accessing it on your computer? How do you manage your finances?
Because there's some you can get on one that you can't get on the other. So I'll be keeping my Sonoses around, but I tell you, for the things that I can get on Apple Music, it's going to be all HomePod all the time.
For people that don't understand what AirPlay is, it's Wi-Fi connectivity between devices, not point-to-point like Bluetooth. So the quality has to be higher.
I do want to compliment Ira, actually, on their description of the Super Bowl.
It was extraordinary.
Yeah. Greg Stilson. I did have fun when he went to the concession stand. I was like, ooh, I want that.
They now have a toothbrush that runs off. You plug it into the lightning port, and you can brush your teeth.
Wow. Why not just get the kind that you put toothpaste on and you can brush your teeth wirelessly?
And 3.
Remember to smile.
2, big smile. And 1. Welcome back to yet another That Blind Tech show. I'm here with the usual gang, Allison Hartley at Hot for Technology, and Jeff Thompson, and this time we're going to try and get it right, known as Jeff on the Twitter. Known as Jeff. How you doing there today, Jeff?
I'm doing good. Known as Jeff. Yes, very good. How are you doing, Brian?
Not too bad. So you probably didn't get any new followers since the last show, since I got your Twitter name wrong and everything. But
crickets.
Yes, crickets. And Allison, yourself, how are things treating you out there in California?
Pretty good. I pried myself away from my HomePod long enough to record this.
Ah, yes. We'll have to speed through this show so you can get back to listening to Apple Music and Apple Music only. Of course, we will be talking about the HomePod. We got some interesting news topics here, though, we wanted to dive in first. Skype just can't seem to get anything right these days. And, full disclaimer, we do record on Skype, but for how much longer, that's debatable. But a lot of people on the iPhone have been reporting, and I could also say this is happening to me, that when I go to open Skype on my iPhone, it just quits automatically. So Skype is absolutely useless on the iPhone. What are your thoughts about the direction that Skype is heading, Allison?
Well, I'm remaining hopeful because Jenny Leigh Fleury, who is the main accessibility officer at Microsoft, keeps telling us over and over again that they're working on Skype. I haven't really seen any improvement. I'm using the Windows Store version that came with my computer, and I still can't access the menu bar. Something as simple as the menu bar. I can't access my preferences to set shortcut keys to have, separate shortcut keys for answering and hanging up on calls. And the usual default shortcut keys don't work. It's just a real mess. You can tab to more in the Windows Store version of the app than in the standalone, but you still can't do a lot of the basic things that you should be able to do as a Skype user on a Microsoft platform running a Microsoft product when they are touting and mostly living up to their commitment to accessibility. But Skype is a hot mess right now, and they've got to fix it because it's really making them look foolish.
Well, I do have to give Skype credit because they do not discriminate. They're a giant mess on Microsoft, the Mac computer, now the iPhone, so it's cross-platform. Jeff, you don't happen to be using an old Windows phone and can test Skype out there, can you?
No. I'm running the beta on the iPhone right now, 11.3 beta, and it opens up so it doesn't crash there. So I have no idea what's going on. The thing that I notice a lot with the audio is they have a lot of noise and they come across hot. It's loud. You think, could they ever say, should we look at the audio quality of this? I don't know.
Yeah, and we almost couldn't record tonight because Skype kept reporting me as away, and I've never checked away on Skype. And then I don't know what was up with my volume, but thank God we got that lower, so I'm not causing you guys to lose any of your hearing there by being too loud.
Well, to answer Allison's question of how long we'll be using this, or your question, Brian, how long's this podcast?
Yeah, I'm about done. I've switched to either Zoom or Team Talk, depending on podcasts that I am on, and I find Zoom overall to be the most accessible on all different platforms. So that's what I would vote for if we're going to switch.
Yeah.
And the way we do it, it really doesn't matter which what do you call it, Dixie cup and string we're using, in a sense, because we're recording our stuff and then
that'd be one long string. Considering I'm in New York, you're in Minnesota, and she's in California.
It would get tangled.
I wonder how much delay there'd be.
You're saying there'd be a little blatancy with, so.
Just a smidge.
This next story is absolutely, so far, my favorite story of the year. And I guess the best way I can put it is the year of the emotional support animal actually gets flushed. And did you guys read this story about the woman with the emotional support hamster on Spirit Airlines?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to laugh, but I cried when I read it because, don't laugh. Please don't laugh.
Sorry.
Because it's actually very upsetting because this poor hamster, I
think it's horrific, by the way, just so.
Yeah, I understand that emotional support animals are not real service animals under the law. So really, she had no right to bring the hamster on the plane. But how inhumane, I almost used a really bad word, how inhumane do you have to be to tell somebody that they have to flush their hamster down the toilet? And I'm sorry, I judge the woman whose hamster it was as much as I judge the airline, because what kind of stupid, emotionally fraught idiot do you have to be to decide, hey, I think I'll just either let my hamster go or flush it down the toilet.
Yeah.
I won't change my flight. I won't not take my flight. I won't figure out some other way of getting my hamster transported. No, I'm just going to flush it down the toilet. I mean, what kind of heartless idiot do you have to be? I really think it's more heartless than anything.
Oh, completely.
Because you don't love your pet enough to figure out some way of either getting it where you need to go or staying with it. No, you just throw it away like it's nothing. I'm livid.
Allison.
Yeah.
Do you know its name?
Its name was Pebbles. Pebbles was its
Pebbles.
name.
Bam Bam.
Yeah.
I did, just full disclaimer, people that don't think I have a heart. I did post on Facebook that if I ever do go to the airport and Nash gets mistaken for an emotional support hamster, that I will not flush him down the toilet. So,
well, that's good.
So you think I don't have a heart? Yeah, no. She obviously had no connection to this animal, because obviously anybody with any kind of emotional connection to their animal would never in a million years. You could always take a later flight or do something, and it's just, I blame this woman as much. And, it's interesting because I think Spirit Airlines is claiming that there's no way an employee said to flush it down the toilet. But it's still, I'm sorry, it is a funny headline. It's a horrific story. But it's actually, I wanted to lead into this because it's women like this and men like this, people with these fake emotional support animals. And don't get me wrong, I completely understand people with PTSD that need their emotional support animals. But it's people like this that are causing people like Allison and myself to potentially have to carry more identification, provide the airlines with vaccination records 48 hours before we travel, which I think is ludicrous.
Crap.
Have you guys been following this latest story about Delta and as of March 1st, what their new policy towards service animals are going to be?
I have been, and I'm of two minds on this, because on one hand, I think it is really burdensome on the part of the legitimate service animal holder. And just to clarify, PTSD service animals are not simply emotional support. They are trained. They are trained in their support of the person with PTSD.
Yeah, Bryan.
But
I
just wanted to make sure, because my school does both for veterans and everything as well. And so, on one hand, it's very burdensome. On the other hand, I see kind of, it's one of those things that almost has to get a little bit worse before it gets better, because there has to be some way of dealing with this fake emotional support animal dilemma that we find ourselves in. So yes, they've swung a little bit too far to the right in terms of the burden of proof, but I get where they are legitimately trying to make sure, at least, that the service animal is
legit.
Is legit. And what I would not mind doing, and I know other people will feel differently and I'll probably get hate mail, I wouldn't mind possibly registering online and having some sort of, token or something that shows electronically that I can just push a button and show the legitimacy of my service dog. Getting forms filled out and having them 48 hours in advance is overly burdensome. I don't always know that I'm flying 48 hours in advance. It's a paper form from what I remember. So you either have to fill it out or you have to call a number and have a Delta representative help you. And that's really, really burdensome, especially on the part of somebody who is totally blind.
I was on the phone with Chris Danielson. I'm talking on another topic, and we led into this. And he admits Delta got it wrong, but United got it right. Delta got it wrong, but United got it right. United got it right.
In January, Delta announced policy changes for those traveling with service and support animals to support the airline's top priority of safety, after an 84% increase in reported service and support animal incidents since 2016. Based on conversations with key stakeholders in the disability community, the airline is further enhancing its policy effective March 1st. We are implementing these changes for the safety of all customers, employees and trained service and support animals flying Delta, while supporting the rights of customers with legitimate needs, such as veterans with disabilities, said John Lafter, Delta's Senior Vice President, Corporate Safety, Security and Compliance. While we will require that all animals not confined to kennels in the cabin have up-to-date vaccinations, we enhanced our policy to make online submission optional for those individuals who are blind or have reduced vision or other disabilities and have trained service animals. In developing the updated requirements, Delta solicited the feedback and input of its 15-member Advisory Board on Disability, a group of advocates established more than a decade ago and made up of Delta frequent flyers with a range of disabilities. Following the announcement, Delta and its Advisory Board on Disability continued conversations with a diverse mix of advocacy groups that represent people who rely on trained service animals, such as the National Federation of the Blind.
Jeff.
Well, I was just reading in The Onion that there's been a growing concern about people bringing on emotional support spouses.
And Jeff, do you know the difference between California guide dogs and New York guide dogs? California guide dogs can smoke weed.
Yeah, man, says Gary.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The Revenge of Samsung. Did you guys hear about this next one? About we finally have our first exploding
Explodopods, yeah.
Snackle. What was that? Snapple. What was that?
Snap, crackle, pop.
Thank you. Snapple, crack, pop.
Snap, crackle, pop.
Yeah, that's frightening as hell because I have an AirPod in right now. So if the show just ends, we know we have our second report of an exploding AirPod.
You're taking your life into your own ears.
That'd be frightening as heck, man.
Yeah, it would.
Whoa. Bryan? Allison?
A couple of us are running the betas. Allison, I'm not sure if you're running the beta, but we did feel a need to talk about the major music bug update. I mean, this is another thing that just baffled me. I mean, it really sets you back. It kind of reminded me of the phone bug going back several years ago on the iPhone. But in the beta of Apple Music, I guess, Jeff, you've played around with it more than I have. Nothing's labeled, right?
Well, yeah, in the previous beta, all of a sudden there was a surprise that in Apple Music, you go to the app and it was just button. So if you needed buttons, hey, you could go there. You could find buttons all over the place. But now in the latest beta, 11.3, beta 3, I believe it is, they've fixed all that. So that's good.
Yeah, and this just goes back to what a lot of people feel right now, that the quality control at Apple has, maybe they laid everybody off. I mean, because to not have things properly labeled in a stock app of on the iPhone is mind-boggling.
Well, in their defense, It's a beta, so you really can't complain about a beta. I updated to the thing, and I got a tweet about 2 seconds after my phone was ready to open up, and it says, "Whoa, don't update. Apple Music is broken."
Oh, no.
But I usually use Siri anyways and just say play. So I'm not going in there and sifting through what they think I should listen to anyways. So it's okay.
Yeah, and I couldn't tell you the last time I actually used any music on the phone.
The last time I opened the app was when I was looking for a particular version of a common song, and I had to sift through some of the previews to get the right one.
The thing is, I'm using the betas, and I really like what they're doing. They keep on moving. They keep coming out. Then they throw the public one out there, so they're probably getting more feedback. And for the most part, it's confident enough that I just update. And that's what I say. That's confidence in Apple, I guess, for me.
So much for 2017, Jeff. Apple, it just works, huh?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I love to do on the iPhone and my computer is manage my finances. It used to be a lot more fun when I had more money, but I wanted to talk with you guys because I'm actually finally getting ready to apply for a new credit card. And, what's important to me, I was like, well, my current credit card doesn't have an app or anything. It's a small company, which I'm finally going to get rid of that one. What's important to me is being able to access my account on the iPhone. So I wanted to talk to you guys about your banking as well as credit cards and see, are you accessing it on the iPhone? Are you accessing it on your computer? How do you manage your finances?
Well, for some of my accounts, I've got Bank of America, which is extremely accessible. And I've used it for years, and they keep continuously improving their mobile app. There is no way to really deposit checks accessibly with any app. I've never found a way of doing that. So that is one thing that you do have to have help with, but it's very rare that I get an actual paper check. But you can look at your balance history. You can transfer balances. I believe with Bank of America, you can even apply for and get credit cards. For my credit card, I have Capital One, and that's also a very accessible app in terms of looking at your bill and paying, and you can even have some other accounts and other types of accounts through Capital One as well. So I have had good luck with that. It's all very accessible for both. You can use Face ID. I also use Credit Karma to keep track of my score, and that's very accessible. The trick with that is to go through the various sections in the app. You have to do a three-finger swipe left and right like you're switching pages. And at first I didn't realize that, so I had a hard time with it at first. So pro tip for if you're working with the Credit Karma app.
I just discovered Credit Karma. In fact, I was telling Jeff about it. I find it 100% accessible and was pleasantly surprised to find my credit rating was much better than I thought. Not going to tell
me too.
Not going to tell you the numbers here or anything, but and I like the fact that they offer you suggestions on what you can do to improve your credit, along with cards that you'd most likely get approved for. And, it's just a fantastic app, and just wanted to mention it on the show. It's called Credit Karma. Highly recommended. It's completely okay. It doesn't affect your credit at all, checking it once a week. And
it's free.
100% free. Yeah. It's a great app. And I was pleasantly surprised about the accessibility for it. And I'm using Citibank, and their app is not 100% accessible, but it would be such a nightmare for me to have to, because I have a personal as well as a business account with them. It would just be a complete. I'm able to check my most recent transactions and my balances, but I find the app to be very clunky. And I spent 2 hours the other day. I tried to deposit a check in. I got the first side photographed, but I could not get the second side to photograph. So that's just something that's not accessible anywhere. And how about yourself, Jeff? What are you using to manage your finances?
I have an app called TCF, Twin City Federal, and it's more of a local 5-state area type of banking. And it is very accessible, and it has the fingerprint because I have the iPhone 7, and opens up, and I can do almost everything. And I think the check thing, one thing I ran in with the check thing is someone has the name like Jeff, and they use cursive, and they swoop down their letter down into the digits of your routing number and stuff, that it won't work. As soon as so signatures, people that sign them, sometimes they got the big John Hancock on there, and bang, it's like screws it up. I usually find out that when I'm taking the picture of the check, if there's a kid around, hey, there you go. Come here, kid. Yeah. You want cereal? Do this.
Put those kids to good work. And if you're out there, shoot us in an email. Let us know what you're using, either banking or checking, that is accessible. You can email us in at thatblindtechshow@gmail.com, or you can always just tweet us in, and that's just at blindtechshow. And let us know what's accessible, what might not be accessible, and we'll help spread the word out there. And now
I have one more.
Oh, go ahead.
I have one more. It's called Acorns, and it's an investment app, and it's meant, to hook to your checking account and invest, any little spare change from purchases that you want to. But you can, I've set up a monthly amount to invest, and it asks you some questions in the beginning about the type of investment you're wanting to make, basically like a long-term investment or for a major purchase. It gets a lot of information, and then it presents you with a portfolio that you can either accept or reject. The only thing, I did have to have cited help getting a picture of my ID. It takes your identity verification very seriously, which I actually really like, because no one can then open an account in your name. They're actually going to be establishing their own retirement account, their own IRA that you can open up through Acorns as well. So I'm probably going to be checking that out at some point soon too. But it's a very, very accessible app. Again, you can sign in using Face ID, and so it's a really, really nice app, and you can actually use Siri if you want to check your account value. It doesn't always work, but it's getting there. But it's really nice, and you can look and you can see your past, your present, and your future account value. And so depending on how much you invest per month times the percentage and everything that your investments yield, they actually can say, in 10 years you'll have this much, in 20 years you would have this much, and so it's a really, really nice way of looking at how your investments will kind of play out over time. I really like it.
Unfortunately for me, it would say zero. You're rich. You actually have investments.
I have like no money in there right now, though. So
I used to have a savings account. I don't even have that anymore. So
Hey, Allison.
Yeah.
So, did you use your app to find out that you were double charged for your refreshable braille?
I did use my app to find out that I was double charged for my Orbit reader. I actually bought it for a friend, and I got double charged, and I still have to figure out. It keeps disappearing, like the charge. I have to figure out what's going on with that, because I think it shipped. So the whole, don't even get me started on the Orbit reader fiasco.
Well, let's get you started on something else brand new that you are the proud owner of, the Apple HomePod.
Oh, I love it. I cannot say enough good things about it. Before we were podcasting, I listened to like several hours of classic rock songs that I had heard my entire life since pretty much birth. Sound completely new to me on this HomePod. That's how much of a difference it makes.
Really?
But it is an amazing speaker. I was actually just telling Jeff that I have two Sonos Ones with Amazon Lady built into it, and they're great for a lot of things, but I played a couple of Tom Petty tunes on the Sonos and then played them on the HomePod, and while technically the Sonos, because it was two speakers, had a slightly wider audio spectrum than the HomePod, the audio spectrum for one speaker was still pretty wide, and the clarity of the music, the balance of bass and treble as it pertains to this particular room that we're in, the balance of the instrumentation and the voices was superior on HomePod.
Now, I've heard conflicting reports, because I read that iTunes Match works fantastic with the Apple HomePod, but some podcasts did report that iTunes Match does not work with the HomePod. Are you an iTunes Match user?
I was an iTunes Match user until I got frustrated with it several years ago when it was trying to match some of the songs that I was uploading. I have a lot of various bootleg recordings, and it was trying to match legitimate versions of the songs. It was trying to match those instead of keeping my bootlegs. So I did unsubscribe from iTunes Match. I don't really see a point for it now, because pretty much everything that I want's available on Apple Music. Now, there are some CD compilations that I actually got that might get me back to using iTunes Match, but I think you can also use music in the cloud now, which is more or less, it doesn't match, but it uploads all your computer music to the cloud. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, it's funny because my iTunes Match just auto resubscribed yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm no longer an Apple Music subscriber. I don't listen to enough music. I stopped the $9.99 a month membership, and with the A Lady, I end up paying just the $3.99, which is their basic plan, and I can play any song from the Amazon Music, which I think is fantastic. Can't beat that.
I keep them both because there's some you can get on one that you can't get on the other. So I'll be keeping my Sonoses around, but I tell you, for the things that I can get on Apple Music, it's going to be all HomePod all the time.
Now, I've been kind of audiophilist in the past and stuff like that, so I do some reading once in a while, and there was talk going on.
You've read?
Well, I'm not illiterate. I do read a little Braille. I was reading about these people talking about what Apple put in there, and they said that technology that they have in there to fit your room, for it to analyze your room and play the music how it wants to be played or how it thinks it should be played, is like a $35,000 setup that the audiophiles use, and they've been able to put it down into a $350 unit.
Yep, it's pretty amazing. It does, and I have personally noticed, and I don't know if it's just wishful thinking or if it's this technology being put to good use. I've noticed that the more I play the HomePod, the better it sounds. So I think it really is tuning to the room, whether I have the window open or have the window closed. It even changes a little bit according to where you're standing in the room. It blows the mind. It really does. I'm just so happy I bought it. And those of you who follow me on Twitter, I was like, nope, I'm not getting it. I have my Sonos. I'm fine. I don't need this. It's a 300. I can't do
that
a stereo.
Blind Tech Show number 8, I think it was.
Yeah.
Hey, Allison.
I was dead set against it. Yeah.
Jeff actually lives in Minnesota, so he's only allowed to open the window for 4 days a year.
Well, we can't all live. We're having weird weather for California. It's unseasonably warm, and I know that should make me worried, but it just makes me happy because it's not raining. So.
Oh yeah, you're in the rain season, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'm one of those weird people that actually thinks the A-Lady speaker sounds fantastic, which tells you that I do not have an ear for music.
You are not an audiophile, Bryan.
No, I am not an audiophile. I was a movie guy, so. But one of the coolest features that I've only seen on the Apple HomePod, and I'm curious if you've gotten a chance to test it out, is the play it faster. Obviously not for music, but that would be fantastic for listening to podcasts. Have you gotten to try that feature yet?
Now this is new. I have not heard of this play it faster feature. I don't tend to listen to podcasts through Apple. I would probably AirPlay to the HomePod through Overcast, where I already have it sped up to the hilts anyway.
Yeah.
But that's a neat feature.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, I heard that and I was like, well, that's one feature that I definitely would be interested in listening to.
Have you transferred your phone calls to
Yes, it's kind of a pain in the butt. What you have to do is, I assume you can do it for regular phone calls too, but I was on a FaceTime audio call. I had to initiate the FaceTime audio call on my phone. Then I had to go to the audio button. Then I had to explore by touch to find the living room button because the HomePod's in my living room. Then I was able to double tap that button and have it transfer over, and the call quality was absolutely extraordinary. So it's definitely a cool way of doing it. I just wish that there was a way to make and receive phone calls on the HomePod. That'll probably come in a later software update.
Hey, you could do that on the A-Lady.
I know you can, but not if you have her built into the Sonos. The Sonos A-Lady is a little bit less functional because she's using the A-Lady API and not the actual, there's more that you can do with the hardware, and that is a huge, huge limitation of that A-Lady API, in my opinion.
The one thing to me that is a little disappointing about the HomePod, and actually it's a lot disappointing, people that unfortunately say they don't have Sonos or an Echo or a Google Home and they have to really only get one, the limited choices of who to listen to music through, that just turned me off to the HomePod immediately because you can only get Apple Music to play there. I was really a little surprised, no tune-in radio, and I'm sure that stuff might be coming eventually, but as of now, it was really shocked me how limited the choices were for the HomePod.
It is a little bit disappointing. I think it would be a complete showstopper if it wasn't for AirPlay. You can AirPlay from pretty much anything. You can AirPlay from an iPhone. You can AirPlay from a Mac with a piece of software called Airfoil. You can actually AirPlay from a PC. I mean, it's not hard to AirPlay. And then you can play literally anything you want, from movies to YouTube to
Spotify,
to Overcast to Spotify to Amazon. Yeah, anything that you could even think of. What I think is going to happen, though, is that in June at WWDC, hopefully Siri is going to open up more, and then there's going to be Audio Kit for Siri, and then we'll be able to have our Audible and our Spotify and everything on the HomePod. Hopefully.
For people that don't understand what AirPlay is, it's Wi-Fi connectivity between devices, not point-to-point like Bluetooth. So the quality has to be higher.
It is. And the nice thing about AirPlay is, let's say you're AirPlaying from your computer to your HomePod, the audio from whatever you're playing, whether it be a YouTube video or music or whatever, will go to the HomePod, but your screen reader will stay with whatever sound source on your computer. So it is really awesome.
Now, do either of you know what it's going to be different in AirPlay 2, which I keep hearing is on the horizon potentially.
I think AirPlay 2 is going to be what's needed for us to be able to pair two HomePods together, because it's going to allow for multi-speaker, multi-room support, and there's some other things that I think will actually even bring AirPlay 2 to the Sonos One. Although now I'm not as interested in that. I don't really care as much anymore, honestly.
Nah.
I'm not sure of the finer points of AirPlay 2, but I know it's coming this year, and hopefully sooner rather than later, because I know that Apple is making this as a high-end sound device that has some smart capabilities, which is great because it is a really great sound device. But if they really want to compete and dominate in this market, all they have to do is increase the smarts, because the sound aspect of it, they blow everybody else out of the water.
Well, AirPlay 2 will be available for other manufacturers to put it into their devices, so you can then expand on AirPlay 2. So right now, it just works with AirPlay 2. You cannot Bluetooth sound to the HomePod. It just won't work.
Yeah, okay. And for those of you that can't afford the $350 price tag, there is good news, because there are a lot of rumors out there that as sometime later this year, maybe this summer, there is probably going to be a cheaper one coming in the 150 to 200. And of course, that's a US range. So that'll be a smaller device, but I'm sure they'll pretty quickly have multiple different sizes for you to choose from.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was probably what I'll do, is just wait, considering I don't listen to that much music. And one thing I discovered recently, I know you could do tons of different playlists on the HomePod, but one thing I just discovered with the A-Lady by default is I was listening to a song and I just said add to my favorites playlist, and sure enough, it had by default at favorites playlist set up. Well, then I started trying something new where I told the A-Lady, create an 80s playlist, and it created an 80s playlist, create a 90s playlist, create a hard rock.
Ooh.
You could buy voice, and when you have the $3.99 a month plan, it's $7.99 for all your Amazon devices, I think, for their music plan, or $9.99. Anyway, you could create tons of different playlists just by voice, and I've been having a ton of fun doing it, because you're sitting around sometimes and you get that song that just pops into your head, and you're like, oh, I love that song. And the other great thing that the A-Lady is phenomenal at is sometimes I can't remember the name of a song or who sings it, and I'll say, A-Lady, play the song with the lyric, and I'll say a few words. It's gotten it every time, which I've been very impressed with. Yeah, that's been pretty cool with the Echo devices and everything.
That is pretty cool.
Well, Bryan, if cost is a thing, I hear they're coming out with a really cheap dot that just hums the songs. So,
what's that song with the words, the wheels on the bus go round and round?
And she guessed it each time, right?
Yeah, yes, she does. And she's nailed it every time. What's the name of the song? I'm a big podcast listener, podcast recorder, because I've got to listen to myself speak and everything. But I got really excited when I read about this new application for 99 cents for the Apple Watch called Outcast, which is really the first podcast player on the Apple Watch. And they were talking about it, and they had a demo of it that I saw somewhere where you'd be able to search on your watch for the podcast and download them directly to the watch. And then at the end, they're like, but you have to listen to them with the AirPods in or headphones.
Bummer.
It ruined everything for me, yeah. It kind of ruined everything, because I was thinking, I can just walk around with the watch and everything. And I'm like,
I would love to do that.
yeah, I'm like, why would I do that when I can just listen on the iPhone?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, maybe, and the reason you have to listen with headphones is Apple won't allow them to let the music play through the watch. So I found that kind of interesting.
That's so annoying.
So annoying.
So annoying.
If you are looking for a podcast app for your Apple Watch, it's 99 cents, and it's supposed to be pretty tremendous. I do not know if it's 100% accessible. For 99 cents, you could take the dive if you're looking for a podcast player app. And which I love on the Apple Watch, just the Downcast, having my Downcast controls really handy.
Yeah, they've got it for Overcast too. It makes it really nice to just be able to switch or to pause. It's so cool.
Star Trek.
I have Jeff ever put your watch to your mouth and said, "Can't get my car," or no?
No, I haven't. And
it doesn't work, by the way.
I want to get one of those slings, like when you break your shoulder blade or something like that. They have those slings that keep your arm up in there. Because I find myself when I'm using my watch too much, it's hard to keep That's not a normal action to be holding your wrist up to your mouth that long.
No.
Yeah, no. And I was watching a TV show the other day, and they were looking at like a hotel registry, and they're like, your brother's name's not there. She's like, hold on. Yeah, he's staying here. What is his name? Oh, he uses the name Michael Knight. I'm like, who's that? Knight Rider? And the guy had no clue who Knight Rider was. So made me feel very old. I'm like, bum, 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 bum. I loved Knight Rider. And, that relaunch they tried to do was just so terrible.
Ooh, yeah.
Only lasted 2 episodes.
Off the record here, our golden oldie station that I grew up with is now playing 90s music.
Yep, so is the one I grew up with. It makes my heart hurt, and yeah, I feel old.
Well, I love the fact that, like, back in the day, like, Poison was considered heavy metal, and now it's like classic rock, and makes me feel how I feel.
Bon Jovi is classic rock.
They're still playing.
And I'm like, what?
Bon Jovi's the greatest. I love the Jovi.
Yes.
Always wanted his hair. But this next story, we actually have to give a shout out to Blind Bargains, because they did bring my attention to this next story. So good reporting there. Finally, Google is having an assistive technology hotline that you can call into.
About time.
It's about time, don't you think?
Yeah.
Bad news is it's not 24 hours like Apple.
Wah, 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 wah.
I'm not even on, well, I guess I still have a Gmail account, but I don't use it. I use it just to log into Google Groups and stuff like that and everything.
Oh, I love my Gmail. I've had it for over 12 years now, but I don't really have any Google devices that I use all that much. I'm glad that it's going to be there, though, for people who need it.
Yeah, no, Microsoft has had their help desk, assistive technology help desk for a while, and Apple, God, they've had that accessibility hotline for a very, very long time. Went 24 hours, I guess, about a year ago. Jeff, you're constantly calling for help, right?
Yeah, 911. It's an emergency right on my phone. I got it on the front page, right on the bottom there.
Well, you were telling me you're constantly accidentally hitting the emergency button on your phone, right?
No, that's one of those things. It's like you swipe something and all of a sudden it says emergency and you're just opening up an app, but it's reading the bottom thing down there or something like that. Have you guys noticed that your control panel pops up periodically?
Control center, yeah.
Yeah, control center, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have noticed that. I'm like, wait a minute. I didn't do a 3-finger swipe. And it's just sometimes the phone seems to have a mind of its own. And I've been having a weird issue where lately 3 times I've had my phone just crash lately. And I don't know why.
Well,
it's just out of the blue.
Weird.
We were talking about 11.3, and one of the new things on the beta is that battery part, and I thought that was really neat. My phone's down to 87%. Like, if it battery charged up to 100%, mine at 100% is as if the battery is only 87% of the battery I started with.
Oh, all right.
I'm completely confused. What?
It's like if you had a battery that was 100 inches long, they chopped off 13 now. My battery's only 87 inches long. You know what I mean? At this point, though, as it wears out, it's about 1 year and 3 months old. It still runs at 100% peak. That's the 2 benchmarks that they're looking at. But its capacity from full charge to running out is only 87% of what it could have been. So my battery's getting older. That's what I can recognize in the new settings in the battery department.
Hey, Jeff, Tom Brady may be able to fight time, but your iPhone battery can't.
Well, all the fighting time didn't help him.
No, that was a phenomenal Super Bowl, by the way.
It was.
I do want to compliment Ira, actually, on their description of the Super Bowl.
It was extraordinary. Yeah.
You listened to it, too? I thought Patrick did a phenomenal job. And
Emily.
And Emily.
Mm-hmm. Emily did the halftime.
Yeah, I didn't really listen to much of halftime, but I did have fun. Like when was his name, the gentleman that went to the Super Bowl that you interviewed?
Greg
Stilson. Greg Stilson. I did have fun when he went to the concession stand. I was like, "Ooh, I want that."
Yeah.
I did not listen to the part where he went to the bathroom. That's where I turned the TV volume up. So I did not. Did they describe him peeing or no?
He went into privacy mode, which is a feature on iOS.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is they did use a brand new glass during that thing. They didn't announce it, but they're running it through the rigors, and he had it on for 10.5 hours, and he never lost cellular connectivity.
Smokes.
Wow, that's really good.
Went back through all the logs. They had a couple issues here and there, but they put it right through the test, the rigor. So, it's kind of neat that they would do that much testing, and they had their top tech guy sitting right beside him just in case, That was
Yeah,
and I thought the whole experience was fantastic. I thought I'd listen to more of the game, but I really enjoyed Patrick's description, and
oh yeah, he was a phenomenal.
it was nice to hear what the commercials were, even though they were all terrible, except the Eli one.
They were not that great.
But
now if Ira could either bring the cost down or the number of minutes up for the cost you get, I mean, it would just be perfect. But that's the one thing. The fact that they now took away rollover minutes is the only thing that's keeping me from pressing the button.
yeah, this next thing none of us have.
like the 13% of my battery.
Jeff, it's never coming back, man. Our final story, Allison probably would have no interest in because it never gets cold in California, or it very rarely does.
It sure does sometimes, especially in the mornings and at night.
That's true. But
Those grapes got to ripen.
I forgot she's in Northern California.
Yes.
But if you turned California upside down, then it would never get cold where you
That's
are.
true. Maybe that's all I have to do.
Exactly. So
The Republicans are trying to turn it upside down.
so anyway, getting out of politics because we just lost 50% of our audience. But this next thing is a personal heater, and I was amazed this product was only about $50 or $60. It sounds really cool. Of course, I'd love to read some reviews about it. It's a heater that you charge via USB, and it has Velcro that you can then put in your jacket and warm you up. And Jeff, when it's negative 28 degrees out there, I'm sure you're always saying I'd like to be warmer.
I don't know about this, but it's interesting. A lot of people out here, a lot of people get these things like at the gas station right up by the register. They have these little packages that if you break them, they heat up and they slide them into their gloves, and it keeps your gloves warm, I don't know. So it's interesting.
Yeah, and they say only 3 out of 5 users catch on fire from these things. So that's why I want to read the reviews before getting it.
Decent odds, yeah.
This story reminds me of a story that I was reading about. They now have a toothbrush that runs off. You plug it into the lightning port, and you can brush your teeth.
Wow. Why not just get the kind that you put toothpaste on and you can brush your teeth wirelessly?
Yeah, get it. Can't they Bluetooth this thing?
Sometimes some technology, it's just you don't need like these Japanese toilets that talk to you. That would creep me out.
I do not want an audio described toilet.
No, thank you.
I actually had my first bad experience with the A-Lady the other night. It was 2:30 in the morning. I was telling Jeff this, Allison, and I didn't say anything, and out of nowhere, the dot just started singing happy birthday to me in a weird voice, and it wasn't even my birthday.
It's so creepy when it sings happy birthday.
It was serial killer creepy. So you've heard it, okay?
Yes, it is the creepiest here. I can actually try to get it so that the audience can sing happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
It is.
To
I
you.
told you it's serial killer.
Happy
creepy.
birthday
Yep.
to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
So that happened to me.
on the final U, the guillotine just comes down and chops off some poor unsuspecting character's head. It's like, yeah.
It scared the bejesus out of me, man. Hearing that at 2:30 in the morning, I was just waiting for the serial killer to come out of the closet. Johnny's here. Or, I don't know what caused it to play it or what. I didn't ask it to, and that was my first creepy experience with the A-Lady.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, so.
Did she charge you?
No. But anyhow, this has been a ton of fun. It's been another great show. What do you got going on in the next few weeks, Jeff? I believe you're heading out to Las Vegas, right?
Yes, for the Business Enterprise program. I get to speak out there. They invited me down there, and
Ooh,
that's
fun.
a neat group of people. I call it the blue collar of the blind. They're the ones that operate the vending machines under the Randolph-Shepard Act, and so they're always advocating and always fighting people trying to chip away at their vending sales. And then from there, I'll be going to Phoenix and enjoying some friends down there. And Lori will meet me down there. And this guy's got like 3 Jaguars, an Audi, and he goes to those shows.
How many do you get to drive?
I think I'll just do the white glove thing. You know what I mean? So I'll be traveling there, and then I'll come back from there and get back into this cold. It's hard to pack. I tell you one thing, it's hard to pack. I got these long sleeves, and I need oh wait, it's going to be 70 some degrees down there, so it's tough. So that's what I got.
For those of you blind people who miss driving, one of the greatest movie lines I ever heard was, "Why drive when one can be driven?" What about yourself, Allison? What do you got coming up?
Just more and more podcasts. To find out what I'm doing all over the internet. Just follow me on Twitter at hot4 technology. Got a lot of exciting changes coming up at work. And it's government, so I can't really talk about it. But it's an exciting time, especially I'll just say if you're a student with a disability, it's an exciting time. And hey, that BEP, I can't say enough about it. You can make some good money as a BEP vendor. The individual who is our director for our department started out as a BEP vendor, so you can go anywhere from a BEP job and make really good money.
It is.
I've always wondered, how do the blind people stock the vending machines? How do they know what's what?
Oh, how do you find a 1, 2, or 3 on a touch dial phone, I mean, all there is...
What's a touch dial phone?
Well, yeah, but there's only like 6 across and 5 down or something like that. I mean, it's pretty much... Yeah,
I'm sure they're using their iPhones to scan the products like the rest of us do. It just seems like it takes a long time.
Oh, you'd be surprised. I actually went through the program just to get for 1 month, I tag teamed along with some people, different people in different aspects, from the financial part all the way down to the grunt level. And it's just organization. It's total except for the desk, but total organization of the product, and making sure that pretty much these vending machines, if you sell X amount of products, there's a readout, because they're all computerized now. So they get this readout, and then they have a program that they run it through, so they know how to place their orders in the right time, and it's a tough business. Some people think, oh, you just stand there and people put money in the machine. No, it's a tough business. You're there all the time. You're busy guy. They're blue collar hard workers.
Depending on where your vending machines are, though, you can make literally hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So
yeah, I've actually got 2 students that are in that program, and one of them is in the the New York State Supreme Court building, and he was telling me that they film all the Law and Orders there. And so Sam Waterston, who used to be on the show, used to come in there all the time, and now they're filming the show Bull in that building. And it was really funny. I was watching an episode of Bull, and he says, "Quick, get me to 60 Center Street." I'm like, "Hey, that's the address of the building." So it was cool that they used the real address and everything. But yeah, so it's supposed to be a great program and everything if you're into that, and you can look it up online and learn more about it. And I guess for now, I am Blind Gator on Twitter. I will be hibernating until our next show, so if I don't get back to you, don't take it personally. And for now, we are out.
When we share
what we see through each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap between
limited expectations and the realities
of blind abilities. The realities of blind abilities.
For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities. Download our app from the App Store, blindabilities, that's 2 words, or send us an email at info@blindabilities.com. Thanks for listening.